Okay, under our course scope and requirements document, I indicated that I was going to use some criteria for my accessibility testing, and the standard that I stated was the WebAIM testing guidelines. And here is that page. This is their quick web content test for accessibility. And right up at the top of the list, they want us to test with Wave. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to install Wave, and we're going to run. Wave is an automated accessibility checker. So we're going to try and use Wave in Chrome and in Firefox if it'll let us, and we'll just see what kind of results we get for our catalog prototype. And yeah, so let's just go to the Wave page and try and install it under Chrome. Okay, look at that. It is not an installee kind of thing. It is a online kind of thing. So we'll copy our address. We'll just paste it in here, and let's see what happens. Okay, look at all this gobbledygook. Let's see if we can. Uh, let's just go ahead and do it in Firefox too, and then we can side by side it a little bit. That's not exactly side by side, but we can work with it. So we've got Chrome on the right, and we've got Firefox on the left. And I can tell just by glancing at it that we have a lot of the same uh, issues. Just with our summary, we've got one error, 5 alerts, 3 features, 10 structural elements, 19 HTML, and ARIA. Uh, I really am not going to get into ARIA in this class because I am not super up to date on how to use this, and I'll do a video on ARIA later. This is just another way to label your elements so the accessibility tree can include more attributes than the stuff that is just associated with basic HTML. And so we've got, moving on, we've got 4 contrast errors in Firefox, and then we've got a different reading in Chrome with 3 contrast errors. So that's kind of weird. Um, I don't know if you remember when we were doing the first accessibility check with NVDA and JAWS and Chrome and Firefox, how these little panels were identified as articles here. And so we can see that those were done with ARIA. You can see right there, ARIA, role equals article. And so that's just an extra little piece of programming that they put in there to let people know what the function of a piece is. So the accessibility checker, it doesn't really like go through and like tell you how to fix things. It just points out what's there. So, you know, the judgment is up to you. We have an empty heading that is saying this is actually an error. So we've got H1 and then this little diver down flag and then H question mark, so it doesn't know. There's like some unspecified heading thing, and we could probably go back and open the developer tools and then look at the HTML code, and we can see what that is. But I don't recall that empty header causing us much grief on the particular page that we were doing. So, that would be like a judgment call. Um, we've got some similar alt text for our graphics, I think. If you click on the error, it'll show you where this alert is. Yeah, this is because these little screen grabs that I'm using for icons for the catalog entries, since they don't contain any useful information, I just gave them an alt tag of null because uh, Drupal is trying to do the right thing and force you to enter alt text whenever you have a graphic. You know, when you're uploading your graphics and including them in an entity, then the field for alt text has got a red asterisk by it, which means that you can't move forward unless you enter something in there. So I've just been putting null. Actually, sometimes like you ought not to have alt text. Like if I were going to include a JPEG of a flower that had just as a decorative element and it has no bearing on the content around it, it's better that the screen reader just skip over it without interruption. And so Drupal, in their zeal to make everything accessible, they kind of approached all graphics prescriptively and introduced a requirement that causes unnecessary delays for the user. So a lot of times in the accessibility world, people are obsessed over following rules without understanding the implications of following those rules. And I don't think that that problem is limited to the accessibility world. And I'll just leave it at that. So, Wave pretty much says that this page is kind of good to go, and it just shows us what's there. And so that's Wave. Uh, let's try another site under Wave. Let's try Austin Chronicle. A much more complex site that has a lot more like JavaScript and stuff. You know, super complex. It's not as complex as some sites, but let's see if they've made any effort at all. Let's, I'm just interested. I haven't done this beforehand. I don't know what we're going to get. And look at that, 32 errors, 38 alerts, 17 contrast errors. That means that if you have like a low vision or something like that, and the text is not high contrast enough, it makes it harder to read. So let's kind of just see real quick what we've got here with these errors. Um, Missing alternative text. Okay, and hopefully this is going to make sense as to why there's no alt text. I think that the first one, this picture of this artwork, I think that it would actually be really helpful to have alt text. Also, this picture of this woman, might be helpful to have some explanation as to what it is, because the heading that's associated with it doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense. These advertisements, this is kind of like a judgment call. Like, do you think that Threadgills or South by Southwest, do you think that they would be happy for a non-sighted user to be able to understand what it is in the picture? Best practice would be that you would have your animated GIF, and then you next to it you would have a text explanation of the ad. But the odds of that ever happening are pretty low. So it looks like this photo here didn't, maybe because this photo gallery thing, this is probably like some kind of an iframe, and the wave tool just didn't even like notice it. So it looks like they're not using any alt text on their home page at all. Uh, so we'll move on past that. We've got no heading structure. So none of these headers have, like, if I were navigating this with a screen reader, I would not be able to get a summary of headings on this page. So in order to navigate this page, I'm going to have to go from top to bottom and kind of guess that this heading that says today's events is some kind of heading. Otherwise, it's all just flat and linear. Let's go ahead and crank up. This video is getting kind of long, and I really, honestly, the Austin Chronicle should be paying somebody to do this for them. So I'm going to go ahead and abstain from getting any deeper into this morass that is the Austin Chronicle homepage. I'll just say that the main two problems with this page is that there's no alt text on the graphics, and there are no headings. So that makes it difficult for a non-sighted user to get the lay of the land and figure out how to retrieve information from this website that is important to them, because they can't prioritize anything based on headings. And that's it for doing a wave accessibility test on my website, and also on a popular public website.